Now let's take a look at Ableton's ability to send us monitor signals about what's going in and out of Ableton Live. Now I'm using this program file again, Assignments and Monitor, and you can follow along, but some of the things that you're going to see me do now are going to be particular to my MIDI gear that's also hooked up to my computer. Now to start with, we're going to talk about all the way to the far left. We've got these two little rectangular boxes here. And the top one tells us anytime there's any MIDI timing or sync code coming in. And the bottom one flashes anytime there's sync code going out. Let's begin playback now. And you'll see that right now that I've got Ableton Live transmitting MIDI sync. And this is flashing just on a regular basis to let us know that indeed it is going out. Now if I go to my preferences, Live, Preferences, I can turn that sync code going out off, and I'll close this. And now watch again. When I begin playback, we see no box even for the sync message. Going back to my preferences, Live, Preferences. Now if I turn on a sync code coming in, we'll see those boxes reappear, and an additional one that lets us know that if it were to receive a timing code coming in, this would illuminate, letting us know it was on. And then here we can see the sync coming in. So you can turn external sync on or off by clicking on it, and then when it receives the code, it will move in time following the timing code from something else. Alright, now I'm going to disable that again. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut command, comma, and turn that sync off. And notice when that's not enabled, we don't see any boxes here. Now coming down to the far right section, we have two boxes here that tell us about code coming in and out, and then two more on the end. They're doing different things though. This one up top tells us if there's any key commands or MIDI code coming in that is going to control Ableton Live. Let's see how that works. I'm going to enable MIDI. I'm going to tell this to launch when I press a certain pad on my drum machine, and then I'm going to stop it on another pad. Additionally, I'm going to control the volume here. There we go. So now when I press this key on my drum machine, I'm going to launch a clip, and we'll see a MIDI indication here saying it got a code coming in. Again, stopping. We see this little yellow box up here illuminating. Yes, MIDI controller key control information is coming in. Any mappings you've done, whether through the computer keyboard or from a MIDI device, will make this illuminate. And anytime we send something out, we'll see this lower one. Now notice as I move my volume control here, this is responding, and we can also see that it's sending something out at the same time. So that's our control in and out information. On the far right, we can tell when a MIDI device is sending in MIDI notes, as I'm playing now. I'll enable us to hear that. Record ARM on track 4. And stopping playback for now. And again, we can see it here. Now when Ableton sends MIDI out, we can also see that. So I'm going to enable this to monitor any MIDI coming in. This track is track 6. It's doing MIDI out. And when I enable monitor in, any MIDI coming in will also go out. So now if I play something from a track, and it'll tell us to get its MIDI from the impulse. Now it's getting MIDI in, and it's also sending it out. We can see it here. So I'm using this track simply to route MIDI, a duplicate of this track's MIDI, out to another device. But again, this is just primarily to demonstrate we have MIDI in and MIDI out, key or MIDI control in, and key or MIDI control out. The next two boxes we see are here to illuminate, to give us an idea of how much load we're putting on our computer. This first box is tracking how much our computer's CPU, or main processing brain, central processing unit, is working. Now I'm going to launch a scene over here. I'm going to hide my I/O, and I'm going to launch a scene. Let's launch 4. Let's look at that. Now, on audio track 5, which I've currently selected, you can see I've got a device called a Triple Verb CPU. This is just simply 3 reverb devices linked together to load up the CPU, not for any real audio purpose. So I'll begin playback again, and I'll just start just this clip. And notice as I enable one of these reverbs that the amount of CPU we're going to start using is going to get more intensive. Jumps up to 15. Now I want to open up 2 more. I'm clicking on their on buttons here. You can see the CPU's jumped up to 39. If I enable the 4th one, we'll see it even jump up higher. So now, according to your system, this may load up more or less. I'm going to stop that. So again, these are just here. I'm going to turn these off now to allow us to load up the CPU and track it. Now once you get very high up here, you're going to start having problems with your audio. You want to be careful to not overload. That might be a time to render a track into audio and play it back without all the processing devices that might be entailed, including synthesizers that are creating your sounds. This final box up here on the right is going to tell us when our disk drives are having a hard time keeping up with the load. So if you're playing back a lot of audio files that are fairly complex, then you might start seeing a warning here letting you know that the hard drives are overloading and can't keep up with the speed and the number of files that you're asking it to play at the same time. Okay, this section now has completed our look across the entire control bar section.